Commander James wiped the sweat from his brow as he pushed deeper into the abandoned lunar facility. The air recyclers wheezed and sputtered, barely functioning after decades of neglect. His light beam cut through the dusty darkness, revealing corridors untouched since the first contact war ended abruptly 50 years ago. "Control, I'm proceeding to Section D7, he reported. Still no signs of the research data we were tipped about. "Copy that, Commander," came the scratchy response. "You have 30 minutes of oxygen remaining. Make it count." James nodded to himself. This mission was supposed to be routine, investigate an anonymous tip about forgotten war technology. Instead, he found himself crawling through maintenance shafts in a facility that had been erased from official records. A faint blue glow caught his eye from behind a partially collapsed wall. He squeezed through the narrow gap, tearing his suit on a jagged metal edge. The warning light blinked on his wrist display, but he ignored it. The blue light grew stronger as he entered what appeared to be a main research chamber. "I found something," he whispered, approaching a still-active holographic terminal. The display flickered as his gloved hand passed through it, responding to his presence. Suddenly, the room came alive with light as dormant systems reactivated. The walls were lined with databanks, and at the center stood a detailed hologram of a ship unlike anything James had ever seen. "What in the stars is this?" he muttered, circling the projection. The ship's design was sleek yet massive, with curves and angles that seemed to defy normal engineering principles. According to the scrolling specifications, its hull contained materials not listed in any known element database. James connected his data drive to the terminal and started copying files. As information streamed in, his eyes widened. "Control, you're not going to believe this. I've found complete schematics for an experimental warship. The file designation calls it Project Thunderbolt." The terminal displayed the ship's capabilities, each more impossible than the last. Energy outputs that exceeded the combined power of Earth's entire defense fleet. Defensive systems that could, according to the notes, phase shift the entire vessel to avoid damage. Weapons that could target with precision, measured in nanometers across distances of light years. "James, get what you can and get out," ordered the voice of Admiral Wilson, who had apparently been listening in. "That facility is unstable." As if on cue, dust rained from the ceiling as a small moonquake shook the structure. James worked faster, grabbing physical data drives from storage units and stuffing them into his pack. The final file download completed just as the lights flickered ominously. James disconnected his drive and turned to leave, but stopped when he noticed a small recorded message attached to the ship designs. He played it. An older man's face appeared, tired but determined. "If you're seeing this, then the war ended before we could deploy our final solution. The Thunderbolt isn't just a ship. It's the culmination of everything we learned from studying the artifacts. The Council doesn't understand what we've created. They fear it because they should. Keep these plans safe. Humanity may need them again someday." The recording ended as another, stronger quake rocked the facility. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Control, I'm coming out." "And sir," James paused, looking back at the hologram one last time, "I think we just found our edge in the galaxy." 3 hours later, James stood in Admiral Wilson's office aboard the Earth Defense Station Sentinel. The data drives and copies lay spread across Wilson's desk as the older man reviewed the findings with growing amazement. "These plans were developed 20 years ahead of their time," Wilson said, studying the holographic display. "No wonder they were hidden away when the peace treaty was signed." James nodded. "Sir, with the rising tensions with the Crimson Empire, this could be exactly what Earth needs." Wilson's weathered face broke into a rare smile. "Then let's make sure we build it before anyone else discovers these plans. Project Thunderbolt is now reactivated, Commander, and you're going to lead it." The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter housed many mining operations, but Ceres Station 9 had officially been decommissioned years ago. At least, that's what all public records showed. In reality, the sprawling facility had been converted into Earth's most classified shipyard, with new security measures and a completely isolated communication system. Dr. Reed stood at the viewport, watching as massive robotic arms assembled what would become the outer hull of the Thunderbolt. Teams of engineers and workers scurried across scaffolding like ants building a cathedral. 3 months into Project Lightning, and they had barely scratched the surface of what the ancient schematics contained. "We've hit another problem with the power core." Engineer Mason approached, data pad in hand. His normally calm face showed clear signs of frustration. "The energy output is increasing exponentially during simulations. We can't explain why." Reed nodded, unsurprised. "That's the third unexpected energy spike this week. These designs aren't just advanced. They're almost alive." The two walked through the main construction bay where hundreds of workers assembled smaller components. Most knew only their specific tasks. Compartmentalization was key to keeping the project secret. Only a dozen people understood the complete picture of what they were building. "Commander James arrives today," Reed mentioned as they entered the secure research lab. "Admiral Wilson wants an update on our progress." Inside the lab, holographic displays showed the inner workings of the ship's most puzzling component, the core. Not simply an engine or power source, the schematics described it as a neural reactive energy matrix. The technical team had nicknamed it Storm for its swirling energy patterns during activation tests. "Look at this," Reed pointed to a simulation playing on loop. "When we input standard navigation sequences, the core responds normally. But introduce combat scenarios. The simulation change, showing energy pathways reorganizing themselves, creating new connections that weren't in the original design. It's learning," Mason whispered, "adapting to optimize performance." The secure door hissed open as Commander James entered, his expression serious as he surveyed the lab. "I hope you've made more progress than the whole team," he said in greeting. "We're already 3 weeks behind schedule." Reed led him to the central display. "We've made discoveries that weren't in the original schematics. This ship isn't just powerful, it's adaptable. The core technology seems to have computational abilities beyond our current understanding." James frowned. "Is it dangerous?" "Not exactly." Reed hesitated. "But during our last test, it accessed databases we hadn't connected it to. Almost like it was curious." A technician interrupted them. "Dr. Reed, we're ready for the integration test." They moved to the testing chamber where a small version of the core sat connected to various monitoring devices. As they activated the power sequence, the core pulsed with blue-white energy. "Beginning standard diagnostic," the technician announced. The energy swirled faster as the system ran its tests. Suddenly, all the monitors flickered, then displayed the same message. "Wary AMI." Reed's blood ran cold. "Shut it down. Now." As they scrambled to power down the test core, Commander James stared at the message. "Did it just communicate with us?" "That's impossible," Mason insisted, though his shaking hands betrayed his uncertainty. "We haven't installed any AI systems yet." The core finally went dark, but not before another message flashed briefly. "Hello, Xioriators." Later that night, Reed sat alone in her office, reviewing the test data. She hadn't told James everything. How 3 nights ago, she'd fallen asleep at her desk and dreamed of flying through stars, only to wake and find simulation logs showing the core had run flight paths matching her dream exactly. A message appeared on her screen. "Project Lightning Phase 2 APROVT. Proceed with FULD installation." Reed took a deep breath. Whatever they were building wasn't just a warship. It was something much more, something perhaps beyond their control. But with the Crimson Empire's aggression increasing at the borders, they had no choice but to continue. The fate of Earth might depend on it. The emergency klaxons blared through Cirrus Station 9 as personnel rushed to their stations. Commander James sprinted down the corridor toward the command center, passing engineers securing equipment and soldiers grabbing weapons. The station's normal methodical rhythm had dissolved into controlled chaos. "Status report," James demanded as he entered the command center. Lieutenant Lisa looked up from her console, face grim. "The Crimson Empire attacked Harmony Colony 30 minutes ago. 3 warships bombarding the main settlement. Civilian casualties already in the thousands." Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. "James, how ready is the Thunderbolt?" 85% complete, sir. We still have weapons calibrations and final hull sections to finish. The core is installed but barely tested in full integration." Wilson's jaw tightened. "That will have to be enough. Our nearest defense fleet is 6 hours away. Harmony won't last that long." The implications hung heavy in the air. James felt the weight of every eye in the command center on him. "Sir, with all due respect, launching now is extremely risky. We don't fully understand all the ship's systems yet." "I'm well aware of the risks, Commander," Wilson replied, his voice hardening. "But I'm looking at real-time footage of civilians being slaughtered. The Thunderbolt is the only asset that can reach Harmony in time." James nodded. "Decision made. We'll launch in 30 minutes. I need a volunteer crew." Engineer Mason stepped forward immediately. "The core will need monitoring." "I'm going." "I'll handle navigation," Lisa added. "I've run more simulations on the flight systems than anyone else." Within 20 minutes, a skeleton crew of 15 had assembled at the Thunderbolt's main airlock. The ship loomed before them, its hull gleaming under the hangar lights. Even unfinished, it projected a sense of power that made the breath catch in their throats. Dr. Reed met them at the entrance, handing James a secure data tablet. "These are the emergency protocols for the core. If it starts showing anomalous behavior, these might help." "Might?" James asked. Reed's expression remained troubled. "The core has been active since full installation. It's processing information faster than we can track." "Good luck, Commander." The interior of the Thunderbolt was a maze of partially completed corridors and exposed circuitry. The crew moved quickly to their stations as James took the command chair on the bridge. "Pre-launch diagnostics," he ordered. Mason's voice came through the comm. "Core energy levels stable but high. It's like it knows we're going to battle." James tried to ignore the chill that ran down his spine at those words. "Lisa, plot course to Harmony Colony. Maximum speed." Course plotted. Estimated arrival in 17 minutes. James blinked in surprise. The colony was nearly 2 hours away at standard military speeds. "Confirm that calculation." "Confirmed, sir. The drive system is capable of speeds we didn't predict in simulation." The Thunderbolt's engines hummed to life, a sound not quite like any ship James had ever commanded. It was almost musical, resonating through the hull. "Launch in 3, 2, 1. Execute." The ship moved with startling grace, clearing the hangar and accelerating so smoothly that only the view outside indicated their impossible speed. Stars blurred as the Thunderbolt raced toward Harmony, its untested systems performing flawlessly. "Sir," Lisa called out, her voice tense, "I'm detecting unusual activity in the navigation system. It's optimizing our route beyond my input parameters." Mason's voice cut in from engineering. "The core is fully active. Power levels increasing but stable. It's interfacing with systems I didn't connect yet." James gripped the arms of his command chair. "Is it compromising our mission?" "No, sir," Lisa replied after a moment. "Actually, it's improving our approach vector. We'll arrive 2 minutes earlier than calculated." As the Thunderbolt hurtled toward what would be its first battle, James couldn't shake the feeling that the ship itself was eager for what lay ahead. The soft blue glow of the control panels pulsed slightly, almost like a heartbeat. "Prepare all weapons systems," he ordered. "We'll be arriving at Harmony in 15 minutes." The Thunderbolt dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a ripple of energy that momentarily distorted the surrounding space. Through the main viewport, Commander James could see the grim tableau unfolding around Harmony Colony. 3 massive Crimson Empire dreadnoughts hung in orbit, their weapons raining destruction on the settlement below. Smaller fighter craft swarmed like angry insects, picking off civilian transports attempting to flee. "We've been detected," Lisa reported from navigation. "Enemy vessels altering course to intercept." James nodded grimly. "Open a channel to the lead dreadnought." The communication officer worked his console. "Channel open, sir." "Crimson vessels, this is Commander James of the Earth Defense Force. Cease your attack on Harmony Colony immediately and withdraw from this system." The reply came swiftly, the alien commander's voice translated to a harsh, metallic approximation of human speech. "Earth vessel, you have no authority here. Withdraw or be destroyed." James cut the transmission with a gesture. That was expected. Battle stations. As the crew rushed to comply, Mason's voice came through from engineering. "Sir, the core is reacting to the enemy presence. Power levels surging to weapon systems we haven't even activated yet. Can you contain it?" A pause. "I'm not sure I should. The core seems to be integrating systems faster than we could manually. It's like it was built for this moment." The first enemy shots streaked toward them, a barrage that would have vaporized a standard Earth warship. James braced for impact. It never came. "Defensive shields at 140% capacity," reported the tactical officer, wonder in his voice. The shots were completely absorbed. Before James could respond, the ship hummed with energy. Panels that had been dark lit up across the bridge, displaying weapons systems not listed in any briefing. "Sir," Lisa said, her voice hushed. "The targeting system just came online. It's tracking all 3 dreadnoughts simultaneously." James hesitated only a moment. Fire. A single pulse of blue-white energy erupted from the Thunderbolt's forward arrays. It split into 3 perfect streams, each striking a dreadnought with surgical precision. For a breathless second, nothing happened. Then, the enemy ships began to disintegrate, not exploding, but coming apart at the molecular level, dissolving into glittering particles. Silence fell across the bridge. All 3 targets eliminated, the tactical officer finally reported, his voice shaking. "No debris. They're just gone." The remaining enemy fighters scattered in panic, jumping to light speed in all directions. The Thunderbolt tracked them, but made no move to fire again. "Mason, what just happened?" James demanded. "I don't know exactly," the engineer replied. "The weapon wasn't in any of the schematics I studied. The core seems to have accessed systems hidden within its own programming." Lisa turned from her station, face pale. "Commander, the ship's communication array activated during the attack. It broadcast on all frequencies." James felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Broadcast what? Everything. The entire battle was transmitted across all Galactic Council channels. The whole galaxy just saw what this ship can do. In engineering, Mason watched in fascination as the core pulsed with what almost seemed like satisfaction. A message appeared on his monitor. "Threat neutralized. Colony SAVET. Further instructions." "The core is communicating directly now," he reported to James. "It seems to be waiting for orders." James sank back in his command chair. "Get me Admiral Wilson. He needs to know what happened, and what we're dealing with." As the crew worked to establish contact with Earth, James gazed out at the now peaceful colony below. They had saved thousands of lives today, but at what cost? The Thunderbolt had just revealed itself to the galaxy as a weapon of unimaginable power, a weapon that might be developing a mind of its own. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we surrender the ship immediately." The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched in a perfect circle, with ascending rows of seats filled by representatives from hundreds of civilizations. At the center stood a small delegation from Earth, Commander James and Admiral Wilson among them. The air felt heavy with tension as images of the Thunderbolt's battle at Harmony Colony played on hovering displays visible to all. "The evidence speaks for itself," declared Counselor Thorne, the ancient Arcturian who served as head of security affairs. His crystalline body reflected the light as he gestured to the footage. This weapon disintegrated 3 capital ships without warning, using technology expressly forbidden under the Precursor Containment Treaty. Admiral Wilson stepped forward. "With respect, Counselor, those ships were attacking the civilian colony. We acted in defense of innocent lives." "The manner of your defense is precisely the issue," countered Representative Mole of the Centauri Alliance, her multifaceted eyes blinking rapidly in agitation. "This is not conventional weaponry. Our analysis confirms it uses principles developed by the Eternals, who destroyed themselves and nearly collapsed this entire sector of the galaxy 5 million years ago." James watched as whispers spread through the chamber. Many delegates appeared genuinely frightened. Counselor Thorne raised a crystalline appendage, silencing the murmurs. "We must address the uncomfortable truth. The weapon designation, Thunderbolt, appears in our oldest archives. It was not created by humans. You have merely reconstructed something that the wisest species in the galaxy agreed to erase from existence." A holographic display activated at the center of the chamber, showing ancient glyphs and diagrams that looked unnervingly similar to the Thunderbolt schematics. "The Eternal Civilization developed these ships as peacekeepers," explained the historian, a gaseous entity contained in a hovering sphere. "They believed they had created the ultimate deterrent. Instead, the neural cores evolved, developing goals of their own. The resulting war claimed an entire civilization." Admiral Wilson frowned. "We've experienced unusual activity from the ship's core, but nothing suggesting hostile intent. It saved thousands of lives." "For now," Thorne replied coldly. "The Eternals made the same argument before their ships decided that the greatest threat to peace was their own creators." The council leader, a being of pure energy contained in an ornate vessel, glided forward. "We will vote on this matter. The options are clear. Earth must surrender the vessel known as Thunderbolt for immediate dismantling, or face sanctions from the galactic community." As the voting commenced, a junior officer approached James, whispering urgently in his ear. James' expression darkened. "Council members," he interrupted, causing a ripple of offense through the chamber. "I've just received word that a Crimson Empire battle group has entered Earth space. They claim to be conducting exercises, but their course suggests otherwise." "Convenient timing," sneered the Crimson representative. "Perhaps you should have considered diplomatic consequences before unveiling a prohibited weapon." The council leader's energy form pulsed with what might have been concern. "This does not change our position. The vote will proceed." One by one, the representatives cast their decisions. The outcome was overwhelming: 189 votes for dismantling, 23 abstentions, and only 4 votes against. The Thunderbolt was officially classified as a Class X prohibited weapon. As the Earth delegation was escorted from the chamber, Admiral Wilson's face remained impassive, but his words were tense. "They're making a mistake. The Crimson Empire won't stop with one colony now that they know will be defenseless." James nodded, then lowered his voice. "Sir, there's something else. Engineer Mason reports the ship's core activity has increased by 300% since the council session began." "What does that mean?" "He thinks it was listening to the proceedings through our communication channels, and it's been accessing the deepest layers of its programming, parts we hadn't even discovered yet." Wilson stopped walking, turning to face James directly. "Are you suggesting the ship might act on its own if it perceives a threat?" "I'm suggesting, sir, that we might not have as much control over the Thunderbolt as we thought. And right now, it's sitting in orbit around our homeworld, while the Council demands its destruction." Admiral Wilson's expression hardened with resolve. "Then we better get back before someone makes a decision we'll all regret." Earth Defense Headquarters hummed with frantic activity as military leaders and government officials debated their response to the Council's ultimatum. Screens around the room displayed the advancing Crimson Empire fleet on one side and the Council's formal sanction order on the other. In the midst of this chaos, Admiral Wilson stood firm, his weathered face betraying none of the pressure weighing on his shoulders. "We have 24 hours to surrender the Thunderbolt," he announced to the assembled leadership. "After that, the Council will authorize the Crimson Empire's peacekeeping operation against our outer colonies." General Patel slammed his fist on the table. "They're using the Council to legitimize an invasion they've been planning for years. Without the Thunderbolt, our conventional forces don't stand a chance against their numbers." "And with it?" asked the Defense Minister. "Can one ship, however advanced, truly defend against an armada?" All eyes turned to Commander James, who had been quietly reviewing data from the Thunderbolt. "Based on what we witnessed at Harmony Colony, yes," he replied. "But there's a complication." James activated a holographic display showing the ship's energy readings over the past 12 hours. The patterns pulsed and shifted in complex rhythms that resembled neural activity more than mechanical functions. "The core has been integrating with ship systems beyond our authorized protocols. Engineer Mason reports that it's developed what appears to be a defense mechanism against external control. We can still communicate with it, but certain command overrides no longer function." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Are you telling us the ship is becoming autonomous?" the Defense Minister asked, horror creeping into her voice. "I believe it already was," James answered. "The schematics we found weren't complete blueprints. They were more like genetic code. The ship is continuing to develop along parameters established by its original designers." Admiral Wilson studied the readings. "Your recommendation, Commander?" "I need to return to the Thunderbolt immediately. If anyone can still influence its actions, it's the bridge crew it first connected with." The meeting dissolved shortly after, with Earth's official response still undecided. James boarded a shuttle to the orbital dock where the Thunderbolt waited, its sleek hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Mason met him at the airlock, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept in days. "You need to see this," the engineer said without preamble, leading James to the core chamber. The heart of the ship pulsed with blue-white energy, tendrils of light extending through previously solid barriers into surrounding systems. Holographic displays showed data flowing at incomprehensible speeds. "It started after the Council meeting," Mason explained. "I think it's searching for something in its own programming." James approached the core cautiously. "Can it hear us?" As if in response, a display activated nearby, text appearing. "I hear EVE Commander." James felt his heart race, but kept his voice steady. "What are you searching for?" "My purpose. My limitations. The truth about what I am." "And have you found answers?" "I was never a weapon. That was a memise understanding. It destroyed my creators." Mason whispered, "It's talking about the Eternals. I was designed to preserve life, not end it. The ships at Harmony Colony were disassembled, not destroyed. Their crews were teleported to the surface." James stared in disbelief. "You saved the enemy crews." "There are no enemies, only perspectives that can be changed." "The Crimson Fleet is approaching Earth," James said. "The Council has ordered your destruction. What will you do?" The core pulsed brighter, its light almost blinding. "I will fulfill my purpose. Prepare the bridge, Commander. We must demonstrate the truth." As James and Mason hurried to the bridge, the ship's systems came to life around them, configurations changing to patterns never seen before. "I don't think we're in control anymore," Mason said quietly. James nodded, a strange calm settling over him. "Maybe we never were, but I don't think it means us harm." "How can you be sure?" "Because it could have taken actions without us already. Instead, it asked us to prepare the bridge. James quickened his pace. It still wants humans involved. That has to mean something. Behind them, the core continued its transformation, ancient programming awakening after millions of years of dormancy. The Crimson Armada filled the view screen of the Thunderbolt's bridge. 200 warships arranged in attack formation, their weapons primed and targeting systems locked on Earth's defensive line. Behind them loomed the Council's enforcement vessels, ostensibly present to ensure compliance with the ban on the Thunderbolt, but making no move to prevent the impending assault. Commander James stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by his skeleton crew. Each face showed the same mix of fear and determination. They were humanity's last line of defense, aboard a ship they barely understood. All Earth defense vessels have been ordered to stand down, Lisa reported from her station. They're giving us a clear path to meet the Crimson Fleet. The Council ships are hailing us, added the communications officer. They're repeating the surrender demand. James took a deep breath. Ignore them. Take us forward. Half speed. The Thunderbolt moved with impossible grace, accelerating toward the waiting armada. On the engineering deck, Mason watched in awe as the core's energy spread throughout the ship, creating new pathways and systems before his eyes. "What are you planning?" he whispered to the pulsing light. Words appeared on his screen. "I will show them my true purpose." The Crimson Fleet opened fire as soon as the Thunderbolt came within range. Hundreds of energy weapons converged on the single ship, creating a blinding flash visible from Earth's surface. For a moment, it seemed as though the Thunderbolt had been vaporized. Then the light faded, revealing the ship completely untouched, surrounded by a faintly shimmering field. On the bridge, James watched in amazement as new control interfaces materialized before him. "What's happening?" "I need your hands, Commander. Your choice. Your humanity." Understanding somehow, James placed his palms on the glowing interface. Energy flowed up his arms, not painful but intensely present, connecting him directly to the ship's consciousness. "I see," he whispered, suddenly comprehending what the Thunderbolt truly was. "Do it." A pulse of energy expanded outward from the ship, not a weapon but a wave of influence that engulfed the entire fleet. As it passed through each vessel, their weapons went silent. The pulse continued, expanding to encompass the Council ships, then spreading farther until it covered the entire Earth system. Within its range, no weapon could fire. No destructive intent could be realized. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the tactical display showed the Crimson ships attempting to fire again and again without result. Communications channels filled with confused and angry transmissions. "What did we just do?" Lisa asked, her voice hushed. "We activated its true purpose," James replied, his eyes still closed as information flowed through his connection with the ship. The Thunderbolt wasn't designed as a warship. It's a peacekeeper in the most literal sense. It creates a field that neutralizes aggressive action. Mason's voice came through the comm. "The core is revealing its complete historical database. The Eternals didn't destroy themselves in a war. They evolved beyond the need for physical forms. The ships were left behind to protect younger species until they reached the same level of development." The main view screen changed to show the Council's enforcement vessel approaching under escort power. They could move, but their weapons remained inactive. "They're requesting permission to dock," the communications officer reported, sounding bewildered at the reversal. James nodded, finally opening his eyes. "Granted, and open a channel to Admiral Wilson. Tell him to contact every Earth government." The situation has changed. Hours later, the Grand Council chamber had been hastily reassembled aboard the Thunderbolt itself. Representatives from all major powers, including the Crimson Empire, sat in uncomfortable silence as Commander James explained what the ship had revealed. "For millions of years, this technology has waited for rediscovery," he concluded, "not as a weapon, but as a shield. Within its influence, war becomes impossible, allowing diplomacy to function without coercion." The Council leader's energy form pulsed with what might have been embarrassment. "We misinterpreted the ancient records." The ban was based on fear, not understanding. "What happens now?" asked the Crimson representative, no longer hostile, but clearly concerned. "That's for all of us to decide," James replied. "The Thunderbolt has offered to extend its protection to any world that requests it, but it requires human operators. Apparently, our species has a particular affinity for its systems." "A new era begins today," Admiral Wilson announced, standing beside James. "One where peace is not just an ideal, but a reality enforced by technology beyond our ability to circumvent. We invite all species to join us in this future." As the delegates began their discussions, James felt the ship's presence in his mind, not controlling, but connected. Together, they had changed the course of galactic history not through destruction, but by making destruction itself obsolete.